Hello and welcome everybody. Hopefully you can see us and hear us. See, there's already some big chocolate debates going down in the chat already.
Totally. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello to you from wherever you are in this beautiful, fine world of ours. It's lovely to have you with us for the Garphill announcement stream today.
We've got quite a bit to get through, even though this list on the screen looks kind of short, because we are showing off the four South Tigers expansions, so one for each game plus the Saga box, with all the covers, all the names. So it's going to take a while to get through, but we're looking forward to it. We're excited to finally share these and also open up the public sharing of the TTS mods soon, I think, too. Cool. People still jumping in. Great to see everyone here. I should have checked before we started how many of these we've done. I think it's about 4 or 5, though.
Yeah, has anyone been here with us for all of them? If you have, we really appreciate your support. If this is your first, we're so stoked to have you with us. The way these things go, we sort of ramble a bit. We just talk all things Garphill, what we can announce to you or what we're willing to announce to you today. But also we're going to engage with the chat. If you've got any comments or any questions that you're dying to ask, we'll see if we can get to asking them or answering them at some point. So feel free just to chat away in the comments and we'll get to some of those questions when we can.
So we have had a few new changes at Garphill recently, which is, I guess, our first kind of announcement. It's not really announcements as much, but we'll just flick to that screen real quick. Here we go. So Zach has come on board as our marketing and media manager. That's the title he's been given. Sam, do you want to talk a bit about Zach and how you know him, your history with him, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so Zach's been a good friend of mine for a long time. I was his best man and he was my best man at each of our weddings, which were 1 week apart, which was kind of funny. Yeah, he's a great guy. You guys will know him as the co-designer of Circadian's Chaos Order. So we worked together on that game for a few years, had a lot of fun making that. And we are now working on another game together as well, which we will not be announcing today, but we're announcing that we'll announce it probably next time. It's going to be in the Ancient Line, so just stay tuned for that game. Sort of a follow-up to Chaos Order, not in the theme, but in terms of the gameplay, I suppose. Zach is doing our marketing, media sort of stuff, but also helping out with game development here and there. He organized the Circadian's Chaos Order World Championship, which was a great success. We had the winner, Kenny from Australia, who played Drake all 3 times and showed everyone how it was done. That was fantastic. So we might look to do more of those sorts of tournaments for some of our games in the future. Let us know if there's a game that you would love to play competitively versus other people online, and we'll see what we can do about it. And yeah, as you can see below, there's also some pictures of some of the posts he's done already. We're trying to do a little bit of a focus on some of our older games, our older releases that we still back and endorse, seeing if people can actually jump in at an older point, not just jumping in with the newer releases.
Yeah, because I've, for how many years I've been doing this now, I was always handling all of our social media, and and the designing, the graphic design, lots of stuff, wearing many hats. And obviously Sam coming on board, 6 years or so now, Sam, 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And doing lots of the heavy lifting for the design side of things and development. So now it's time to pass on another one of my hats to someone else, so Zach can really because I've honestly, I've dropped the ball a lot now. Social media, I'll kind of go, oh, I should probably look on Facebook now. Oh, it's been 2 months since I shared anything. So Zach's going to take over that and do very regular posts and very intentional posts, not just little things here and there, like Sam was saying. He's also put together a newsletter. We're doing like a monthly mail out with all the updates, things that are kind of exclusive for the newsletter as well. So some sort of behind the scenes look at design or choices we make in our games, that kind of thing. There'll also be monthly discounts for certain items in our store, or there might be free shipping or whatever it might be. So you can get discounts for our web store there as well. So yeah, that's Zach. He's on board to at least the end of the year, but hopefully longer. So we'll see how that pans out. But it's so awesome having him here because he's a very smart boy and he's very clever at things that I have no idea about. So that's always
so make sure you say hi to him and be kind to him on social media. He's doing an awesome job there. And feel free to ask questions if there's things that you want him to highlight, like strategies and games or whatever. I'm sure that he would love to get any sort of questions or feedback from you guys. around, yeah, just a deeper dive into all things Garphill.
Yeah, cool. All right, that's one of our three things to cover. The next thing we'll talk about is the upcoming Kickstarter. So as you already know, most likely, that we have the Anarchy and Scarborough coming to the same Kickstarter. And this will be going live on September 24th, which will be in the evening in New Zealand, so it's going to be the 24th in most places of the world. For you, it might be early in the morning for a lot of Americans and North Americans. Yeah, so we are kind of going to do a brief breakdown of these games. You probably already know a little bit about them. We have talked about them previously on another announcements video, but we'll give you a little overall. So the Anarchy, as most of you probably already know, it is a sort of a mechanical sequel to Hadrian's Wall. So designed by Bobby Hill, and both these games are obviously illustrated by my brother Sam Phillips. So the Anarchy versus Hadrian's Wall. What are the differences do you think, Sam? Like, how do you compare them together?
Yeah, the Anarchy versus Hadrian's Wall. At first glance, they seem very similar. We've got sort of these Euro right, big, heavy, Euro rights with lots of combo potential, lots of different areas where you can be spending your workers to boost tracks. But man, the differences is where it comes alive. So the Anarchy has a lot more of a tactile feel, like just a classic board game. Players are building up their own little castle. They've got their own castle where they have their own attacks coming in from the enemies that they sort of custom build to defend. So you can build your moat, you can build your walls, turrets, the gate. I might have some of the terminology wrong, the bridge, but it's a really cool feeling for the tactile nature and how you choose to custom build your castle to be able to defend these attacks. There is also an incentive for the players not only to defend, but also to invade. So there's this, I don't know, how would you explain the invasion mechanic, Shem, where you're attacking other castles?
Yeah, so you've got in Hadrian's Wall, it's obviously very every resource matters so much, so it's about that scarcity and that management. With the Anarchy, it kind of puts you on two sides. Like you need to build up your own thing, like much like you're doing in Hadrian's Wall, but now there's this other thing you can focus on as well. So it's choosing like where do you push your resources? Can you do both? If you can't do both, then maybe push harder on the other one instead. So there's always this desire to try and attack one of the five. There's a castle every round, and you want to try and attack that each round if you can, but it's not always possible. If you do attack it, maybe you're going to get more hits on your own castle. So there's a good tension there, I find.
Yeah, totally. And so one of the things I've probably said online before about Hadrian's Wall is that it's kind of like it's not really an engine builder. It's basically like you're playing a game where you've already had your engine built, which is the sheet of paper, which has all of these cool combos ready to go, and you just get to jump in and drive the car and choose how you want, which of these combos you want to trigger. In this game, there's a little bit more of that customization. There's a little bit more of that engine building, choose how you want to build your engine, which is something that's totally for me. I think this game is super evocative. The theme really comes out, and there's a lot of combo potential, as I've already mentioned. Someone has asked about the interaction in this game. These games are intentionally supposed to be low interaction. And the reason that they're supposed to be low interaction is that you get the most amount of combo potential per minute of play. So if there was interaction, you usually would have to wait for other players' turns. And that means you can't fit in as many combos. So this game is trying to do what it does really well. There are a few points of interaction, of course, but that's not what it's aiming to do really strongly. It's aiming to give you the most crunchy, interesting decisions per minute. So you're always engaged in your own kind of board or your own sheet of paper.
Yeah. Yeah, the only interaction really is the drafting at the start. So you're drafting your resources for the thing. And also, if you are not attacking these castles in the middle, you're falling behind. That's actually the turn order kind of tie break in a way for drafting these cards. So if you're not attacking the castles, you're getting last picks on those cards. But yeah, like Sam said, it's all mostly a solo kind of experience. But
which I think is for the better. Yeah, I think that is actually a really good design decision. Not every game should try to do everything. And did we already mention that this has the campaign in the box, Shem?
Not yet. You can mention it right now.
So if you've played Hadrian's Wall, if you know a lot about it, you will know that we released, or Bobby released, a campaign online that you could download and you could play through a bunch of different scenarios, which is a good amount of fun for a solo player. But with this game, we're releasing it in the box from day one. So there's a solo campaign with how many scenarios are there, Shem?
20.
20 different scenarios to run through. So there's a ton of replayability here. And I believe there's also another game mode that you can play too.
Yeah, which comes in with the campaign as well. So there's a version of the game that's a bit more like Hadrian's Wall. There's no castles in the middle, but the attacks coming at you are far stronger. So it's all about defense, if that's your thing. It does make the game a little like one less complexly. There's one less page to read in the rulebook, but it actually like Bobby brings it in and out of certain chapters of the campaign, which is quite fun. So you get this very different variation. Also, the campaign card deck or scenario deck is kind of equal to what you saw in Legacy of You. So there's tons of cards that come out each chapter. Some will be just for one chapter only, like here's this new kind of rule set you play with for that one chapter, and some will kind of come in and out at certain times. So yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
cool.
so
Hey, Shem, we've got a
soft-spoken.
few comments about apparently my mic is too loud or yours is too low. So we'll just see if we can figure
I
that
can't
out.
push
So I've
myself
asked.
up anymore, but I'll pull you down a bit.
Okay, cool. So I've asked a question in the chat. If you guys are reading the chat, what's your favorite of these two covers? So feel free to let us know. I think Sam has done an absolute amazing job with both of these. They're just so incredible.
Yeah, just moving my mic as well. Hopefully that's better for everyone. Cool, and then Scar Bray is obviously one of my designs. This has a similar DNA, I guess similar kind of design space that I was in to Shipwrights Redux and Legacy of You. So if and also it does feel, I guess, like Paladins or the Anarchy or Hadrian's Wall. It's this very much a resource heavy, puzzly kind of game. That's better. Cool, good to hear. So this game it's a bit lighter. It's not light. I did just teach my two daughters this the last weekend. They are almost 10 and 12, 11. I can't remember their ages. 10 and 11. And they picked it up surprisingly well. So that was kind of a good thing for me to see. Oh, I've got this game that I enjoy. It's crunchy. It burns my brain, but they can pick it up. So it's not overly complex, but it is still deep. So the game is set 5,000 years ago in the Orkney Islands. Skara Bray's a village there. And this picture, you can kind of see the background of the huts they built where they dwelled. There's 40 or 50 people there at a time. So it's about kind of gathering and surviving and comforting your settlers and that kind of thing. So it's I guess it's a bit kind of my take on like a farming game a bit. There's not that kind of farming that you might expect in those kind of games, but very like 16 different resources and stuff and lots of moving parts. So yeah. And again, it's got
What about the asymmetry, mate?
the asymmetry. Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
so everyone has these tiles in front for their actions, which you take by placing workers on them and stuff during each turn. But each player has one of their 10 actions is unique. So they have a little bit of a different path they can follow. And in solo, you have the combination of that, plus there's these goal cards and task cards that you could fulfill as you're playing. So the solo experience can be quite different game to game as well. But it's 1 to 4 players, and it's quite solo-y, but for the multiplayer, there is a sort of a card draft, and it's an open draft that you see the next 3 turns over the course of the round. So in turn 1 of round 1, you can see the first 3 turns, and you might pass to take a card later first. So there is a bit of interaction and stuff there, but it's not that kind of game again. Both these games are much more of that kind of solo puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the sort of there's a bit of a sandbox to this game as well. You can go after a ton of resources of one type, and the game allows you to do this in multiple different ways, or you can go for a diverse approach, and you can go kind of quite chaotic and create a lot of rubbish, we'll call it, midden, poop, if we're being a little bit childish. And but you get all the benefit of having a ton of resources. So this for me is really exciting. I love that kind of sandbox vibe to my Euro games. Not a sandbox game, but a sandboxy Euro, so to speak.
Yeah. And it has a similar mechanism to Architects where the more you go to the same place, the more you get. So you can really just be abusive to like one kind of environment, one area, or you can diversify, which is better for point scoring overall. Cool. Someone's asking about box size and stuff. Both these games fit very comfortably in the boxes. Ezra Nehemiah was definitely like the absolute limit of what we can put inside that box. So we're always trying to pull back if we can, but these games fit easily. So other things to mention for the Kickstarter, that's what we're mainly talking about. So both games will be available. They'll both have their own promos with them that come free in the Kickstarter. The Anarchy comes with some promo plunder tiles. These are these basically little resource tiles that sit on the main board, which tell you what you get as a reward when you attack a castle. So I convinced Bobby to add in some kind of funky ones in there that change up the game a little bit. So they're there. It also comes with these little bear tokens, which aren't necessary, but they are quite useful to have as a tactile thing, a version of where you'd usually circle a box, you can just grab this token instead. And Skara Brae brings in 2 more asymmetric boards, so the game comes with 8, this adds 2 more. The other thing that we're adding, or things we're adding, there's going to be dry erase boards for the Anarchy and Hadrian's Wall. So these come as a pack of 2, as in for 2 players, and each pack will have 4 boards, so 2 per player, and one side will have Hadrian's Wall and the other side will have the Anarchy. So if you buy 1 pack, you've got dry erase boards for both games for 2 players. And if you want to have 4 or 6 player limit, then you can just buy more packs, and they will be fairly cheap as well, which is good. And yeah, they're just going to be the same artwork, the same kind of look, but you can then play the games until you're 99 years old, which is great. And they will be coming to retail, I do believe, and they will be available on our website at a later date as well. They won't be available separately in the Kickstarter. For those Hadrian Wall lovers, you won't be able to just get the dry erase boards, but they will be an add-on that you can get. The minimum for this Kickstarter, because people will probably wonder, is at least one of these games. You can buy just one if you want. Cool.
We see some people really excited about that announcement, Shem, the dry erase boards. Yeah, so what a great call.
We do get an email every month or 2 that asks about, what if I run out of sheets and all that kind of stuff. So dry erase seems to be the way to go for that kind of reason. The other thing that is coming is a folded space insert for Skara Brae. So the team at Folded Space reached out to me and said, hey, we saw you got 2 games coming. It looks like there's a ton of resources in Skara Brae. Would you like an insert? And then they said, we could even potentially get it done in time for the Kickstarter, and it can be offered as an add-on. So we said, yes, that would be fantastic. So we haven't seen any kind of mock-up yet of that, but they are going to be working on it in the next month. And we should have a good image. They did all the inserts for the Architects, Viscounts, and Paladins that we had, the very fancy printed ones. So they're going to offer quite a cool insert for Skara Brae, which when you have 16 unique resources is kind of necessary.
You really went to town with the resources. I love it.
There was a version of this game that had I think it was 1,300 cards or something, and I'd spend so much time trying to figure out how is this going to be a practical game to play. You need an insert of some sort, but I had to come to the realization with Skara Brae that if I put an insert in the box, it's just not going to fit in the box. So this is a great solution for them to have it available straight away as well. So people are asking about prices. I don't know exact prices yet for these 2 add-ons, but we're going to make them as cheap as we can. So because the focus for us really are the 2 games. And if you want the extra stuff, you can get it for cheap through the Kickstarter. Cool. Yes, leave us know.
I will say that if you're a solo gamer, and I can say this because I wasn't designing either of these games, if you're a solo gamer, you should not miss this Kickstarter. But because both of these games are sensational at solo. So this is just a solo player's dream. Seriously, I would highly recommend jumping in on this Kickstarter.
Yeah, there you go. Quote from Sam McDonald. And I think as far as timing and stuff, the Anarchy is probably a 60 to 90 minute game for a solo player. Skara Brae, I don't know, you're probably 30 to 60 minutes. It's not that long of a game. So they both fit a good space, and they're not going to take up the whole table. Much like Legacy of You, they're kind of small footprint as well. All the previous Ancient games will be available as add-ons, as well as a bunch of the more recent promos, and we'll have English, French, and Italian as available languages this time around. There will be other languages made, but they won't be through the Kickstarter. Cool. Any other questions on that stuff? Or do we jump into the box covers and all sorts?
Yeah, I think we're ready to move on. We're ready to move on? Let's do it.
All right, so I did actually have a waiting screen. This is my before the south screen. So yeah, we are going to show off expansion for each South game, and then the Saga box. So we're going to tell you some of the details about them, obviously show off the cover, and then just yeah, ask you what your favorite is, I guess. So Sam, you ready?
Let's do it, Shem.
All right. So the first one we're going to show off, in order of course, is for Wayfarers, and this is Tides of Trade. Boom. There you go. So I wanted to get in this kind of visual look of traveling far for trade. So we got the pyramids in the background, traveling down to Egypt, and keeping that nice yellow tone going as well.
Woohoo! There it is. Beautiful. So maybe we should talk a little bit about what this expansion adds.
Perhaps.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk a little bit about what this expansion adds. So in the base game, as you know, if you've played the base game, players are sort of custom building their dice with their little dice board. So they can make their ones have camels and telescopes. They can make their threes with ships and dice manipulation and that sort of thing. So we asked the question to ourselves, what if players could also custom build their workers? And we decided that this was a fun idea. So in this game, players can custom build, in this expansion, we've added another board, which adds to your player board, where you can custom build your blue, your yellow, and your green workers. And the way that this happens is there are these 1x1 little dominoes, and there's a top and there's a bottom. And these randomly get shuffled around at setup, and then they come out in pairs, a top with a bottom, a top with a bottom, a top with a bottom. And these might do things like gain a coin and gain an influence. And they might do some other things as well, provide you tags for your in-game scoring and your journaling. All sorts of fun stuff that can pair up with these little tiles. And you can take actions over the course of the game to upgrade a worker. And then all future turns you use with that colored worker, you get to gain those extra benefits as well. Or take those extra actions. Some of them allow you to take some extra actions. So that is a really fun addition to the game. We're also adding in a bunch of extra cards. We're adding in a new tag type. We're adding in some multi-use cards as well. There are 10 townsfolk, which are called the Overseers, and they are multi-use, so they can be dismissed for a really powerful effect, like you've seen in a bunch of our games, or they can be tucked for a once per sort of rest phase, really powerful effect too. So they're sort of stronger than any of the other townsfolk in the game, and you can kind of plan a strategy around them. So the key goal really with this expansion was just to give you more stuff. Like this game was already overwhelming with a ton of different things you could do. But that's kind of the idea of the game, is that it's super sandboxy and you get to pick your own path. And we want to make players feel creative themselves when they play this game. We want to give you the room to express yourself creatively with how you choose to play this game. And it was our goal to make sure that all these different paths were balanced points wise, so that you could win with these paths. So this definitely adds a fair few more paths, but it doesn't make the game longer. It doesn't really dilute the other paths either. Is there anything else to add there, Shem?
Yeah, it also adds in the fourth minaret. I think you mentioned that. Yeah. So we've got the black, the blue, and the yellow minarets on the base game. This brings in a red one. It's worth slightly more than the others at end game, but it kind of acts a bit like a wild influence color. So instead of spending a black influence to move on the general track twice, you could spend a red one instead. But then it also comes in as a cost for many of these other actions, like buying those worker upgrades and recruiting these new trader tiles, which you can get to your board. So as an act, you have a new, Sam said it, alongside your player board, you've got this new slot where you can basically place any die you like to either upgrade your worker or get a trader tile. Trader tiles give you an immediate effect, usually at the cost of spending red influence. And then these multi-use cards Sam was talking about, if you've tucked them under your player board and then place a trader tile, that gives you this ongoing benefit each time you rest. So lots of cool combos. But yeah, like Sam said, it doesn't kind of bloat the game in any way. It just kind of fits in nicely and adds a few more paths you can explore, which has been good fun.
Totally. Yeah, so there's another thing that we've added that some people in the comments have mentioned. There's this little tile that you can flip over if you ever take a turn to journal and you don't move. And then the next time you journal, or any future time that you journal, you can flip it back to discount the requirement by one. So if you get stuck in one of those corners and you didn't plan ahead for it, this will help you out over the course of the game. You won't be able to get stuck anywhere near as easily. And the two-player, sorry, not the two-player, the townsfolk cards, the overseers, they come out sufficiently frequently that that's going to create quite a lot more kind of churn of cards, because there's those dismiss abilities there as well.
Yeah, so it keeps the town so good fresher as well. Cool. I think we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
All right, next one, I guess. Just keep firing through questions, so we can always jump back. So the next one is for Scholars of the South Tigris, and this one is called Body of Books. There you go. So in this one, we kind of had this idea of like, well, we've got all these colors, obviously. Like, is there a possibility to bring in a black die as some kind of use in the game? And then if we did bring in this black die, what would it do? How would it function with the other actions and that kind of thing? And that led us to creating basically a 7th research track, the black track that you can research. And with that comes all the scrolls that are tied to that, and various other things that come through that track. But the track we decided to theme around was medicine, because at that time, I think, I could be wrong, I haven't looked up for a while, I think at that time there was something like 2,000 physicians in Baghdad. Maybe it was more than that. So medicine and the study of various, healing things was so huge at that time in Baghdad. So that seemed like thematically a great way to go for this. And Sam, we're also bringing in books into the game, aren't we? A new way to tuck things below your board.
Yeah, totally. So this isn't making the game any broader. We're still sticking with the same 4 actions. There's still only 4 actions you can do in the game, but it's going to make the game a whole lot deeper. And I know that Scholars was already really deep, but you have these books that you can tuck, just like you can tuck retired translators. So you're going to end up with a lot more cards tucked below your player board, and a lot of, as I've said in Wayfarers, but now we've added this to Scholars, a lot of customization. So players can feel smart, they can custom build, they can express themselves creatively, as I keep saying, with this expansion. So you can build a really cool engine around researching, or a really cool engine around translating. And you get that feel of retiring translators more as you put these books under your action slots on your player board.
Yeah, and the way we kind of made it integrate, like Sam was saying, was that we gave each of these 4 actions basically a black action. So often in the game, if you do a research action, your color reaction matters. So I will do a red research action, or I'll do a blue travel action. So now each of the 4 actions has a black version of that. So for recruiting, if you use a black die, your pips are discounted for that action. So black dice are just more powerful when you recruit. When you travel, if you do a black action, if you land on or pass the neutral marker, then you gain this resource, which we've called XP, experience, which you use for another action. Obviously, if you research with the black, you'll move up the black medicine track. And now if you choose to translate with a black action, you're not actually translating the scrolls that are in the House of Wisdom, you're instead getting these books that Sam was talking about, and you're spending XP to acquire them, usually. And that's how you get those cards that tuck below your board. So you've got the same choices that were in the game, but now you can do a 7th color, or 9th color, I guess, if white's a color, for these actions. And you've also got the extra card in hand as well to harvest that track during your rests.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's just we've really enjoyed playtesting it. It's super fun. This is one where, like Wayfarers, I would almost say just throw the expansion in first play. There's already so much you're teaching, it's not going to be that much longer. But this one here, I would not say play this with your first play. I think this is for people who have had a good amount of experience with Scholars, and they really want to go that much deeper and that much crunchier. So that it's a good amount of fun. And we've also added a cool system where if you finish a row, so those all 4 of those actions, if you've tucked 1 card under each of them, you get a really cool benefit, and then it makes the prices cheaper again for tucking more translators. That might sound really impossible for you guys that have played the game and only retired 2 or 3 translators over the course of the game. But this is something that you can actually go after a little bit more, and maybe you go after those effects where you place a gold on translators just to get them retired and lean into it a little bit more. It's a more viable strategy for sure.
Seeing some of the comments. We may do a playmat as well, yeah, for this one. We won't do one for Wayfarers, obviously, because the boards are modular. But for this one, it's going to add a big extra piece to the side, to the right of the main board. So we may look at doing a playmat. I'm not saying that we definitely will, but we may. And someone was asking about kind of what does the black medicine track do. As you move up, you can gain XP, and you can also gain more black dice to your bag. You start with 1 in your bag, and you can get more, but it's quite hard to get a lot. And also, it's on the way to get these other cards in the game, which are basically upgraded versions of your action cards. So during setup, I think there's 6 that we're laying out at every player count from memory, of the possible actions that you'd have in your hand, the cards you play from your hand. There are upgraded versions of those cards.
Yeah.
So there's a way on the black track to get these cards. So I'll basically cash in my astronomy card to pick up, not astronomy, cash in my chemistry card to get a better one, which will say now that when I play this, not only will I harvest the chemistry track when I rest, also I immediately get a gold when I play it. Something like that.
Yeah.
So you can go after those as well.
It facilitates more strategies, more of these quick rest strategies, where you only take 1 or 2 actions and then rest. And there's that little race element to get the card that you really want. You might really want to get that biology upgraded card before someone else. Only one of us can get it. So there's a little race there, which is fun.
Cool. That's body of books, I guess. And we'll be revealing more about these, like the actual componentry and stuff in the coming months as well, showing off some of the boards and cards and things that are coming. But for now, it's just the covers and the teasers. All right, next one. So this is for Inventors of the South Tigris. This is Era of Experts.
I'm going to say it, Shem.
What are you going to say?
I might be the most excited about this one.
I'm not surprised. Sam, if you don't know, Sam really loves asymmetry in games. And that's exactly what this expansion is. It's just asymmetry, the expansion. Go on.
This is another one that I would just say, I would almost just put this in from game 1 if you've got this expansion. I know that you guys haven't played Inventors yet. Most of you haven't played Inventors yet. It's still on its way over to your homes if you backed it. Thank you for backing it. But this adds in not 1, not 2, not 3, not even 6. It adds in 12 variable player powers that are sufficiently nuanced. They have a lot of different things going on for them. When playing with this expansion, we made the decision actually to take 1 round out of the game because these player powers are quite significant. They're quite strong and they add a fair bit of power creep. So we just sort of take 1 round out of the game, and we're still managing to get roughly similar scores to what we would get in the 4-round game. So it should be a little bit faster when you add in these player powers. But there's a lot of really interesting things that these characters do. And they also sometimes, actually most of them, change the game for all players that are present, not just the person playing them.
Yeah. Nice, yeah. So it brings in the 12 characters and a few components to support those characters, and various styling changes and all sorts. We took the 3-round game from the original, where you basically place your 4th tent on a card and slide it down as you achieve certain things. We basically took those and moved them onto these player boards, but then everyone has quite unique little triggers on those effects. So, like the first one's like when you build twice or invent twice or whatever, or if you get your first ongoing research tile, then you'd get to move your tent down and activate. I can't remember what it was in the first one. Was it like a
you gain royalties, and then you'd get to bump craftspeople and that sort of thing.
But someone might have something that moves a ship. Someone else might have one that destroys an invention tile off the board and gets the benefit of it. So lots of various things that go on to kind of support the play style that character encourages.
Yeah. So I will do a shout out actually, because J Cubed in the chat mentioned it. Yeah, this was quite inspired also by the Arnak expansions. The forgot the name of it. The expedition something. The Lost Expedition. I've forgotten the name. But there's an expansion for the Lost Ruins of Arnak which added 6 player powers. which are sufficiently nuanced. Like these characters do some really interesting and different things. It's not just like one passive ability. They do have passive abilities, but they also have a unique deck of cards and stuff. And what this added to replayability for that game was sensational. And we thought Inventors of the South Tigris is the kind of game that could do an expansion like that. And that's what we wanted this whole expansion's focus to be. So we're not adding in new cards, we're not adding anything like that. We're just adding in these player powers to let them shine.
Yeah. Cool. All right, next one. So this is the Saga box. There's been a lot of speculation around the title of this, and in all honesty, the title has changed a few times. So we had one that was only 7 letters long, which obviously tilted me a bit, but it made a lot of sense thematically. We jumped to a different one, which was 8 letters long, and then finally found one which I felt really fit the theme quite well and kind of the overall story of the South. So this is the South Tigris Moon Saga. There it is.
Ooh, did anyone guess that?
I don't
Shem,
think
did
it-
anyone guess the
No
Moon
one's
Saga?
no one's mentioned
Any of
it.
the
No one's mentioned it at all.
yeah.
We had Ink Saga for a while, but obviously being 7 letters was a bit annoying. We had Roll Saga, but it was a bit too much of a strong pun. As much as I love a good pun, Roll Saga was a bit cheesy. We had a few, but Moon Saga really brings in, it ties back to Wayfarers, you know, with all the planets and stuff, and just really the kind of the ooh and the ah of this kind of period of time, and all the knowledge and stuff they're acquiring and studying of the astronomy and stuff. So
Yeah.
it looks good, and it has that same rhyme to Rune Saga, Moon Saga. So what this brings in, it does bring in the classic Saga system that's in Rune Saga and Tome Saga. So you can play all 3 games back to back as a group, and there are those goals to go after, which give you the abilities for the next one, and then whoever has most of those things at the end of the 3 games is the winner. So that's all still there. That's all still the system. Obviously, the powers for the actual games, not for Viking games or anything. And with Tome Saga, we added in the cooperative experiences for each game. We did not want to do that again. that was a lot, but we did want to
We
bring
almost
something.
lost our sanity doing that.
Yeah. We did want to bring in something unique to this box, so that not all 3 sagas are just clones of themselves. We want to do something fresh for this one. So Moon Saga brings in a solo only 6-chapter campaign that you can play through. So in a similar vein to what the Anarchy is adding, there's going to be like a little book with some stories and decisions you can make throughout the game. So the general kind of flow of it, how it works, is you will play Wayfarers by itself, solo, and you'll be recording your scores at the end for you and the AI. And then there will be a decision to make. You'll read a story, you'll make a thematic decision, basically. There's no kind of mechanical reason why you'd go one way or the other. Make a decision that's going to push you down, I think, 2 or 3 paths, potential at the start, I think it is, which is going to then let you play Wayfarers with the expansion, but your setup will change based on the path you took. And that's kind of how it works. Then you go into Scholars, more decisions, then Scholars the expansion, and eventually you'll come out at Inventors with the expansion at the very end as one of the 12 possible endings of the scenario. And then you'll be comparing your overall kind of how well you did against the AI in all 6 games. So the writing will be done by Ben Hewitson, who did all the writing for Legacy of You. So he's really excited. He's going to jump in and start writing that very soon. And I can't wait to see kind of what he comes up with, because he did an amazing job on Legacy of You. So expect more of the same.
We've got a comment here from Sam Dean saying solo gamers are getting their Garphill.
Hey,
That's pretty good.
had to be a pun.
So is this a spoiler, or can I ask, with this campaign, you said that the last game is Inventors with the expansion. Does that path end up with one of the 12 characters?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's very, very cool.
I guess we can share it here. It's not a big spoiler or anything, but basically in the story, it's going to be written in a way that you don't really know who you are. It's always in first person. You don't really talk about you don't name yourself. You don't say what gender you are, what age you are, anything like that. You're just playing as you. And kind of in the last story, it's like, oh, I was this person all along, and all those stories kind of made sense. So it's the story system is built in this quite weird web. So there's lots of ways to get to the last result. So you might take a quite different way to get there than how you might get there on different attempts. So you can play this multiple times, and it's, obviously if you went down the same path, you'd probably choose a different path. But it's that kind of pick a path kind of vibe to it. So yeah.
That's really awesome. So, how long do you think one of these Moon Saga competitive days would take?
I think I just put it to BGG, and I said 4 to 6 hours. I think it was. I think Sam and I could probably crack through. Was it three? Was it 3.5 hours, 3 hours at your place? We went through it once early in the year. But I
Yeah,
think
I would say double it for other two player peers.
yeah, because 2 player you
Might-
might, even though there's less players, you might be more inclined to take your time because there's not players waiting. So 2 and 3 might be about the same. 4 players, I think you're looking at 6 hours at least, just because these are big crunchy games. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, totally.
I
Maybe
mean,
even more.
yeah, you could smash through Wayfarers quite fast if everyone knows the game well. It could be less than an hour, I think, but then it starts to slow down. But it's a good experience, and you can just stop and play these over multiple nights or days or whatever. So that's the fun of it. Just record what you got, which tokens you got, and then set up the next game.
So
Cool.
do let us know in the comments which of these expansions you're most excited for, and I'm really keen to read what they are. And then I'll ask a question to Shem. I had a question on my mind, and it's totally slipped my mind. Oh yeah, there was a question about the boxes.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with the boxes that we already have for the base games? Will they be able to fit the expansion components?
Right. Yeah. So Tides of Trade will fit very comfortably inside the Wayfarers box. When we first started designing the ideas behind Tides of Trade, because it was quite early on. It was before we designed the insert for Wayfarers. I was like, well, I think this is what we're roughly going to have. We already had the idea of upgrading the workers, so we're probably going to have more tiles in the game. We're definitely going to add more cards to the game. We may need some more space for boards, but probably not likely many boards. So that's why there's all these extra slots inside Wayfarers. It's not that we had the expansion made, but we kind of knew the direction it would probably go.
Yeah.
So it will fit inside the box with the insert still. Body of books will probably not fit inside the box with the scholars insert, because I think the original, when we first made that insert, I don't think we had this track idea. We had the kind of black dice idea and a few other things. We thought, it's probably more tokens, more stuff, but the fact that there's this big board that goes on the side, which is folding, I think that would lift the lid. So yeah, so you probably want to throw the insert out for scholars for that one, but otherwise it will fit in the box fine. With Era of Experts, it's going to be tight, but I have tested it and it does fit. But it's going to be like Ezra Nehemiah type fitting. So practice your Tetris skills at home, and then you'll be good. But we were looking at maybe going to kind of Architects player boards for Era of Experts, so like the thinner kind of 400 GSCM card for those, so that they will easily fit. But it just felt wrong. We want these to be big chunky boards that you can pull out, and then that's your character. All the rules for your character, which is the current plan, are going to be on the back of your player board. So basically you get, I'm going to choose this character, flip it over, here's my setup, here's my rules, cool, flip it over, start playing. So there's no scouring through a rulebook for all the iconography and stuff. I'm pretty sure it's going to be just like the player boards, the extra components, and then like a single rule sheet of how to play with the expansion. So yeah.
Yeah, it's quite component light, right? Like,
yeah,
yes, the player boards are a little chunky, like nice thickness, but not adding a whole bunch of different cards and things like that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like, everyone has their own unique workshop tile. One guy gets an extra tent, someone gets an extra worker, someone has this kind of custom 12-pip colorful die, all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, but that will fit, although it'd be a little bit tight. And then obviously Moon Saga, we never designed the Saga boxes to be kind of fit in with the other ones, so that will contain all its own stuff as it should.
Yeah, totally. So we got 5-10 minutes to answer any questions. If you guys do want to ask some questions about these expansions, about Skara Brae or the Anarchy, or maybe any upcoming releases we haven't announced. But we do have a question from Levi, the legend Levi. Did you guys have these ideas in the order they were released, or did you design them out of order and decide how you wanted to release them?
So these ones, I do believe we did them in order. So as we've mentioned a few times now, that Scholars was basically designed before Wayfarers, and we switched them over because we had the time to do that, and it felt like it was the better progression of the trilogy. in terms of the weight of the games and the kind of familiarity of the mechanisms. But I think Tides and Trade and Books of Body of Books were developed around about the same time. But I'm pretty sure that we did the Wayfarers one, thought that's cool. Now what for Scholars, and then we kind of developed them at the same time. So, yeah, is that your recollection? I could be wrong.
Yeah, I do remember us talking about, Era of Experts, talking about it when we were originally working on Inventors, because it just felt like the kind of thing that could handle asymmetry. But we already had so much in that base box, and there was already so much game there that it's completely fun and playable without them. Scholars of the South Tigris, I think we were stumped a little bit when we were working on it originally. Like, how would we even expand this? This feels like a complete game. It feels like done. And so it did take a little bit of head scratching and a few different iterations to come up with an expansion that didn't bloat the game or send it into too many different directions and fit seamlessly back in. I think Paladins was the same, actually, City of Crowns. It felt like a little bit of a head scratcher. How would we fit this into these 6 really tight actions we've kind of made this ecosystem for, that we couldn't dilute too much?
Yeah, we did. I know that the neutral marker in Scholars, the little black marker that moves around the map, that has the icon we're using for XP. So we kind of landed on this idea where you're going to use XP as a resource right before. It was honestly like I think 2 or 3 months before the Kickstarter for Scholars. So we hadn't designed the full expansion. We had ideas, but I was like, I think we'll probably be using this thing. So I'm going to put the screen print on this token as a reminder for the expansion that when you land on and move past it, you get XP. I think how we actually did that did change from then, but there was kind of forward planning, like let's just make sure we do this just in case. And if it doesn't work out, then who cares? No one knows what that icon's for anyway, and it's just a cool icon to have on the token. But it worked out, which was cool.
Just going to roll through some questions here then. So we've got Scott asking, can you give us a little Easter egg or two for the East Empire trilogy? So what I will say is we might have mentioned that it was East Empire. Was it the last? Might have been the last live stream. And we mentioned that we had a little bit of a discussion about what kinds of mechanics we were looking for. Well, only just last week, Shem and I had another brainstorm for the first East Empire game, and it seems promising. So we haven't done that much more than that, but we had a little bit of a cool brainstorm about that.
Yeah, we've been brainstorming for the last, I think, probably 2 years about it now, I think, a year or two. We filmed the documentary series. It's now, oh gosh, it's over a year and a half ago that we were filming it, and that's when we kind of talked about the stuff you see there. But we were thinking about it before that, so it's been at least 2 years, I think, of us kind of going through ideas. I've got like 3 names I think will be the names of the games and the stories, but that could change, so that's why we're not going to talk about them. But we are very conscious about the big discussion of complexity and weight, and we're not trying to make these games too big. But Sam's touched on that a lot in past videos, talking about how dice add a lot of weight, and the more you innovate, the more complex they get. So you can find those videos. I'm excited to dive into them. I'm not sure when the release of that will be. It might be 2026. It might be 2027. We just don't know. We want to bring them out when, I guess, there's a lot of demand for them. We don't want to kind of. The South was kind of running on the heels of the West, and it's just like, here's tons more games. So we might take a year's break more than we usually would. So you might see a few more games next year that in the Ancient line or in other lines that we might work on. But the East is coming. We want to make sure it's the best thing possible. We don't want to do it in a space where we feel like we've kind of done enough of these games. We want to come in fresh and inspired and bring games that we're really proud of. So if that means waiting a year, then we'll wait a year. We'll see.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of freedom there, which I love, that we're not rushing to get the game out and then we're under duress that we just have to hit this timeline and release the game. So when we release the game, it will be the best game it possibly can. And I'm going to say that it's going to be lighter than Inventors.
I think that will be the peak of the medieval, I think. Yeah. If we go bigger than that, then we'll just call ourselves Vita and Lacerda.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question here. We've got a lot of questions. Thanks, guys. We'll try and get through them. We'll see how we go. So from the Eternal, where was it? Now I've missed it. Oh yeah. Does the Moon Saga contain any additional content or cards for the other 3 games, like the other sagas did? Do we have a promo pack?
Not currently. Not currently, but potentially. Yeah. Yeah. That's about all I could say. We
Yeah.
did. I know we have mapped out some potential promos. There are other promos coming through Dice Tower and stuff, as we usually do, and other kind of reviewers. So keep an eye out for some of those. But yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Will these be separate campaigns or one large campaign? One large campaign for all four. One large Kickstarter campaign, I believe, that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So it'll be
Yep.
all four of these. Potentially a playmat for scholars. I don't think we'll do one for inventors. Um, yeah, and there'll be all the coins. You can buy all the base games. The old promos will come with the games. Still a while off from those kind of details. Right now, Miko's just started on finishing the artwork, so we've just started to see some of the character art for Wayfarers. We've seen the background for all the boards and Inventors. So I think Inventors is basically done art-wise. Era of Experts is done. And there's a few sort of player boards and the main board for the other two coming still. So we should have all the art done inside the next month, maybe next few weeks, and then we will likely open up mostly solo testing, but you can still multiplayer these expansions through TTS and through our Discord server. So if that is interesting to you, you can join our Discord. You'll find the link on our website. And you can there's a way to sign up when you get to our Discord to become a militia, which basically means you have access to testing stuff early and giving feedback on them. So we would love to get tons of feedback on these, especially for balance, but also just for the feelings and experiences, like trying out different characters in era of experts, trying out crazy weird strategies in Tides of Trade, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or as people have coined, trying out different books in Bob, the Bob expansion of Scholars. So yeah, if you're someone who backs on Kickstarter, you can back these on Kickstarter like usual. If you do, we really appreciate it. If it suits you better to wait for retail, absolutely go ahead and do that. That will be possible for these as well. So however you normally buy or purchase these games, that will be available for these expansions as well.
And it's
so
likely a January Kickstarter, like end of January, maybe early Feb is the plan currently.
So a question from Lynette then is, what are our favourite games in the South Tigris? Do you have an answer for that, Shem?
Depends who I'm playing with. That's my answer for any of those questions. It's just like, what's your favourite? Like, who am I playing with? If I'm playing with my young daughters, not Era of Experts, not Inventors. They haven't played any of these games actually currently. They've just started dabbling in some of our heavier stuff. They've played Rays of Scythia. They've played Architects, and they really enjoyed Architects now. So they have played Scar of Bray, as I mentioned earlier. I would probably start for them a game like this. I think Wayfarers will be overwhelming for them. I think just way too much. So I don't know why I'm suddenly diving into which game would I play with a 10-year-old, but yeah.
No, but that's a really good point. You know, games. So much of what makes this hobby amazing is the people you play games with. And if they're having a great time, that's perfect. Like, I love playing the Inventors. First thing in the morning, I've got a coffee. I'm with a friend or two who know how to play the game. And we get to really dive into some heavy, crunchy strategies and try and feel smart and maybe fail at feeling smart. But yeah, that is fantastic. Body of Books, I love the feeling of just doing this custom crazy book strategy with the new expansion. And Tides of Trade, all sorts of different emergent strategies and paths you can take. So I dodged the question. I'm sorry.
They all give different experiences, so I would just play each of them for a different reason at a different time, to get a different experience. I wouldn't just play Avengers over and over and over again. I'd switch to Wayfarers now and then.
Yeah, for sure. So Board Game Animal asked, did all of these ideas develop as you expected, or did any end up much different than initially anticipated? So I would say that Body of Books did change a fair amount. We knew that we wanted to add in black dice. We knew that we wanted to add in a track, a medicine track. But we had a few different iterations for how that worked. And it took quite a few times to actually make it work with the books and actually tuck in cards and not adding any other subsystems in other areas.
I think the original Sam there wasn't a medicine track. It was like, here's these black dice. I think you just had like one. You could get some more sometimes, but they were going on this new player board area, which you could tuck for rest abilities and stuff. And they were more like,
that's right.
They were kind of like auxiliary dice. You didn't use them for actions. They could work like a white die, but they weren't good for that kind of thing. And that's all they did. and this isn't adding enough. It's not really like doing much. So yeah, it went through quite a lot.
That's true. I remember there was actually an iteration where it wasn't very good, but it sounded cool, that you were actually translating scrolls that had been translated
That's
into
right.
Arabic
The first
into
one.
other languages and then sending them out with emissaries, these works of knowledge to other places, so to the Hebrew people, to the Greeks and stuff, which sounds like a really cool idea, but we just couldn't make it work mechanically.
It's like the backwards translation movement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with it was that it was sucking up your usual translation actions. That's kind of like what we always hit. Like, well, if we bring in this new thing, then you're kind of losing this other part of the game that you'd usually try and focus on. So it was about trying to make it fit in nicely. Tied to Trade did go through a bunch of changes, but the worker upgrade was always the core of it. And I think the idea of always having a red minaret was always part of it. But how they interacted and that kind of stuff changed. Like I know that the board where you placed your upgrades for workers and how those upgrades worked changed a lot. There was a version where you could have up to 3 different upgrades under a worker, but it took so long to invest into the upgrades that the game was over.
Yeah,
So it's getting that
that's
balance
right.
right as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the area experts is just kind of being like, of course it's this. It's just kind of
Yeah,
grown
pretty
from there.
smooth.
But we have changed like how they kind of plug into the main game.
Yeah.
Things like that.
So I'm going to skip over a few, but do ask them again. We'll be around for another few minutes, maybe. So we had one here about what about a super saga for all the directions? I will say that
Super
this will
saga.
definitely happen, but it might not be us.
It's gotta be
So
the
all
Uber
you would need
saga.
to do would be to make tomes that fit between the third game of each trilogy and the first of the next. So if we don't make it, I'm sure there'll be fan made ones. But there's a chance we might make them. I'm not sure. What do you
At
have to
that
say
point,
to
you'd
that?
probably, because we've got like Rune Saga has these big chunky tiles and stuff. We'd probably just make a whole new saga, I think, which borrows from the other ones or makes new ones or whatever. Of course, I think you kind of have to in a way at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And we have mentioned many times there will be, or I'm going to work on a 13th game. We'll hopefully work on a 13th game that brings all the civilizations back into war or something, some sort of Age of Empires game, just because that would be so, so fun. And it's kind of a joke. It's half a meme, it's half serious. So, yeah, don't hold me to
We don't even know.
it. Any other questions that you noticed? There's a lot here. I actually can't keep up with them. It's crazy. Thank you so much for chatting, guys. It's been awesome hanging out. We won't be at Essen this year. Do we already know the mechanical theme for the East trilogy? We talked about this in previous videos. We sort of have an idea around some mechanical themes we're wanting to hit on. Maybe simpler action taking systems, but with more options, more sort of open action taking systems, like a Gaia Project Lost Ruins of Arnak type thing, but maybe not. And maybe some more focus on kind of shared map spaces, like spatial elements on boards, like terraforming Mars, that kind of vibe. The games are slipping.
Terramistica,
My mind.
Brass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah,
Kind of what you've seen in Scholars and Inventors as well, where it's more, and Ezra Nehemiah probably is a better example of that, where players are playing in the same sandbox more than anything. Some
I
questions about
think we've done.
merch. We have tried merch stores a few times and they haven't really worked. So I'd love to do some merch, but that might be something we'll work towards in the future with coming to cons. We might start bringing some over. But yes, we do like our branded stuff.
A few questions about Board Game Arena is we do have 2 games on Board Game Arena, Architects and Hadrian's. Feel free to play them. They're awesome. We will look to be adding games to Board Game Arena kind of sporadically. So, maybe once a year kind of thing, Shem. Yep. Slowly adding games to Board Game Arena as demand is there, but we're not going to just spam Board Game Arena with all of our games immediately.
Yeah, so the next one coming is Paladins. So expect that probably towards the end of the year or early next year for it to be available for testing. But yeah, looking forward to that. I will probably jump on there and play that quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
As for more apps, who knows? The Raiders app was done not through us. It was done through Direwolf Digital and Renegade. So that was, our hands weren't even touching that basically. And we're not in control of that app at all. So currently our only apps are our scoring app and then the Raiders solo app. We may do more in the future, but it would have to be like a very specific kind of reason to do it, I think, much like the solo app and things. But we will continue to update the scoring app with all the games coming out as well. Who knows? Any other questions?
We had a few people just appreciate Chaos Order, so thank you for that. We had a great time with the World Championship. I think we will look to do that probably again. That was a good amount of fun. People seem to be in our Discord server setting up games of Chaos Order all the time when that was running. So that created a fair bit of hype and excitement around the game. So it sort of opened up our eyes to what these tournaments can do and can bring. I know that there's a lot of gamers that don't really want to interact with games super competitively, and that's totally cool and chill. But there are some gamers that love that feeling of competing like it's a sport and trying to get a win, and it brings a higher level of intensity to the games, which can be good and it can be bad. But yeah, it's just opened up our eyes to, oh, maybe there's this competition thing is exciting for some games. I know that like on Board Game Arena, for example, people love to increase their ELO rating and to fight for first place in the arena standings and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's a chance that we will do this for some other of our games in the future. So thank you so much for that, for all of you who joined in for that World Championship there. Will Sam grow a moustache? Yes and no. I don't know if you can call it that. It's just a sad excuse for one.
It's present. That's what it is. It's there.
And now we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel talking about my moustache. I think we're gonna have to call it now.
Yeah, so we'll be sharing more about the Kickstarters in the coming weeks, and then we'll probably do another one of these kind of announcements early next year, revealing 2 or 3 more ancient games we're working on. We're busy working on games, so we love doing it. So thank you for supporting us and for tuning in. Thank you, and good evening, good night, good morning, I guess. So long. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.